Hey YouTube, MattyZeddy12 here with another legit YGO deck profile, and this one is for our live stream. That's right, every Sunday we have our locals at Legit MTG, the home store of Legit YGO. And if you head over to Twitch, we will be live streaming our locals every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. You can head over to twitch.tv/LegitYGO and watch our locals every Sunday. But what ends up happening when you do a live stream is between rounds, as the game ends, there's some dead time that you have. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start having GOAT control format games between the rounds at our locals. So in order to do that, you got to have a couple GOAT control decks, and not everybody at the locals has GOAT control built. So I built some GOAT control decks of my own, and we will be playing those between rounds. So what I've done is I've got the deck list from Kris Perovic from his YCS Boston Top 4 deck list from 2005. For some of you guys that aren't familiar with GOAT Control is a older format from April 2005 to the end of September 2005. It includes all of the sets previous to Cybernetic Revolution. Now there's a little controversy with Cybernetic Revolution. It was actually released during this format, but a lot of people don't use it in this format because it was only legal for a very limited time, and it was never actually legal for a premier event. So Cybernetic Revolution is left out, but everything prior to Cybernetic Revolution is legal for this format, and there of course is a ban list, restricted list for this format also that you have to go by. But I'm going to get into this deck profile. This is Kris Perovic's Top 4 SJC, Shonen Jump Championship, Boston, from 2005. So you start with one Blackluster Soldier. It was the only Chaos Monster. Well, I'm sorry, Chaos Emperor Dragon was banned. This and Chaos Sorcerer were the only Chaos Monsters available to you. And you didn't play Sorcerer, you only played Blackluster Soldier. Double Air Knight Parshaft. Now what this guy does is he has trample, and anytime that he deals damage, you get to draw a card. So there was a lot of goats being used, Scapegoat, putting out the tokens, and Kris found it useful to have double Air Knight so that he could resolve the effect and draw extra cards. Also, with everyone using Scapegoat, they would have several tokens on board. You could summon your Asura Priest, which is allowed to attack every monster on your opponent's side of the field. So you could just pow, 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 get rid of all the goats, and then get a little punch in with like Air Knight or whatnot, or just clear their board to eliminate the morph play that they may draw into. One DD Warrior Lady was restricted to 1 at the time. It's odd to look back and see cards like this that were overpowered in their time, but are looked at now as a wasted slot in your deck now. Double Magician of Faith. What this is going to do is it's going to get back your spells or your spell cards from your graveyard, allow you to reuse them, and the biggest targets were always the Trinity. And we'll talk about the Trinity in just a second. Now the Dark Monsters. One, Exarion Universe. Now the controversy with Cybernetic Revolution, Exarion Universe kind of fits in there also, because he was the 10 that he was in was actually released on September 1st of 2005. So again, he was only legal for a very limited time. However, he was actually legal for the SJC, the Shonen Jump Championship Boston, in which Kris Perovic used this. So it is accepted in the GOAT format, where Cybernetic Revolution is not. One Breaker, the Magical Warrior, again, like he was restricted to 1 at the time. Well, here, let me talk about Exarion first. This is a card that a lot of people are not using now. He's an 1800 attack and 1900 defense, which is significant. The 1900 defense, because if you draw into him, you can set him, and Air Knight cannot pierce over him. So the 1900 defense is significant. Also, the 1800 attack is a rather large number. You can also make his attack decrease to 1400 and allow him to trample over a token also. Breaker gains a token, and then you can use it to destroy a back row. But again, another card that was overpowered at the time, was restricted to 1, but is now seen to be not as good. Double Tsukiyomi, you were using this to flip your Thousand Eyes Restrict face down and reuse it to flip your opponents down and run it over, reuse your Magician of Faiths and whatnot. One Sangan, yeah, we all missed the Critter. Well, the Critter's back for this format. And one Spirit Reaper to round out his darks. And the last of his monsters, one Tribe Infecting Virus. With this card, you can discard a card and destroy all of the monsters on the board of the same type. So, like if you discard the card and you declare warriors, you destroy all the warriors on your opponent's side of the field. I'm sorry, on the field that is a warrior. So, like you discard a card and declare spellcaster, you destroy all the spellcasters. One Morphing Jar. This is another card that people, like, for some reason they think they shouldn't allow this in GOAT format, because at the time this was only been released out of tournament pack and it was extremely hard to get, and there was a lot of people that just didn't have access to it. But it was used in the deck list, so I feel like we should be able to use it. Sinister Serpent. Now this guy's amazing. Some people actually think this card should come back for the current format. I disagree, because it is a water, and you can just discard it for your Mermail plays. And then during your standby phase, you can just, if he's in your graveyard, you can just add him back to your hand, which then makes your discard completely free. But yeah, so that's the monsters. Let me pick these up, and we will move on to the spells. And what we're going to start with first for the spells is what's referred to as the Trinity. Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards. Graceful Charity, draw 3 cards, discard 2. Delinquent Duo, pay 1,000 life points and you randomly discard a card from your opponent's hand, and then your opponent has to choose a card in your hand to discard. So what this did for you is it allowed you to gain advantage, it allowed you to see more cards, and it allowed you to take cards away from your opponent. This is referred to as the Trinity because it is thought to be the 3 most powerful cards in the format. And in fact, I would almost completely say that Delinquent Duo is the most powerful card in this format. Not just because of its effect, but because your opponent has very little to nothing that they can actually do to stop the Delinquent Duo. Like, the only answer that you have to Delinquent Duo is to hope that you have a Sinister Serpent in your hand, and then you get the Sinister Serpent back. So you're only actually discarding the 1 card. Like, that's your only out to Delinquent Duo in this format. Now we're going to get into the GOAT control part of it. You have triple Metamorphosis and triple Scapegoat. Of course, Scapegoat, you're going to activate this and gain 4 GOAT tokens that are level 1 monsters. And then Metamorphosis you're going to play this and tribute off one of those monsters and gain a fusion monster of the same level. And we will get into the fusion monsters in just a minute. Again, your biggest target would usually be a GOAT token going into Thousand Eyes Restrict, but we will talk about that, like I said, in just a second. Next, we're going to talk about just some of the more powerful spell cards that you had to your disposal. Premature Burial, pay 800 and bring back a monster. Snatch Steal, take your opponent's monster. Heavy Storm, and then again, restricted to 1, Mystical Space Typhoon. So those were some of the power cards that you would have along with the Trinity. To round out the spells, you'd have double Nobleman of Crossout. Setting monsters was extremely important in this format, and you would almost always want to cross them out. Double Book of Moon. Again, like, you want to save your monsters, and it does Book of Moon things. Like, this card is so good, and it's almost unbelievable to think that we were at a time when you could play 3 of these. That is all of the spells. I'm going to try to fix this as much as I can, go through this quickly. Ring of Destruction, destroy 1 monster on the board, and then both players take damage, inflict damage equal to the monster's attack. 1 Torrential Tribute, 1 Call the Haunted, 1 Mirror Force, and 1 Sakuritsu Armor. Sakuritsu Armor works a lot like Mirror Force, except it only destroys 1 monster. And then double Dust Tornado. Since you had no other real destruction effects, as far as spell and trap removal, Dust Tornado was extremely important during the time. So that is the main deck. It is a 40 card deck, and now we're going to get into the extra deck. This is a rather simple extra deck. I'm actually not for sure how this compares to his actual deck list, his actual extra deck from that time, because the extra deck at that time, you did not have the 15 card limit, so you could actually play several of these. This is actually just kind of a dumbed down version. So this is what I had available to me, so let's look at this. Triple Thousand Eyes Restrict. Now what Thousand Eyes Restrict does is it works like Relinquished. You get to take one of your opponent's monsters and equip it to this, making it a spell card, and then Thousand Eyes Restrict gains attack and defense equal to that monster's attack and defense. However, what this also did is while he was face up on the board, other monsters cannot change their battle positions, and other monsters cannot attack. So he was control. He was absolutely this was the control card of the format. You bring him out, and then you should be able to control the pace of the game. Darkblade, the Dragon Knight, is actually a beefed up Kaiku. It doesn't stop your opponent from removing cards, but what it does is when it deals damage, you actually get to remove 3 monsters from your opponent's graveyard from play. Fiend Skull Dragon, what this card does, it's actually rather interesting. As long as this card remains face up on the field, negate the effects of flip effect monsters. That's actually really significant because, as you saw, there's a lot of flip effect monsters in this format. Also, negate the effects of any trap cards that target this card and destroy it. So you could not target this card with trap cards. So you could not Ring of Destruction this card. You could not Sakuretsu Armor this card. And you could not activate flip effects while he was on the board. Next, we have Dark Baltar the Terrible. This was actually one of the most popular that was used, and we have 2 of those. And what I'm gonna read this guy off to you real quick. When a normal spell card is activated, negate the effect by paying 1,000 life points. So basically, this is a 7 Tools of the Bandit, but for spell cards. Also, the effect of an effect monster that this monster destroys as a result of battle is negated. So if you destroy a monster by battle, you are negating his effect. So you can run over your opponent's Sangan, and they do not get that effect. You can also run over their Sinister Serpent, and their Sinister Serpent would not be able to activate. You can actually just shut them off from the pluses that they would be able to get. Next, we have Ryu Senshi, and Ryu Senshi, like the other guys, is extremely good, except he is a level 6, where these guys were both level 5s. So the biggest target that you would use for this would be your opponent's Jinzo. You would snatch steal your opponent's Jinzo and then morph it into Ryu Senshi. And what Ryu Senshi would do is as long as this card remains face up on the field, negate the effects of a normal trap card by paying 1,000 life points. So this guy is literally a 7 Tools of the Bandit. Pay 1,000 life points and negate a normal normal trap card. Also, where are we at? Here we go. Negate the effects of a spell card that targets this card and destroy it. So now I can negate trap cards, and he's unaffected by spell cards. So yeah, Ryu Senshi, extremely good. And the last extra deck card that I have available to me right now is Gatling Dragon. Your only target to bring out Gatling Dragon was BLS. You would morph your BLS into Gatling Dragon. Not always the best play, but if you're snatch stealing your opponent's BLS, you can morph it into Gatling Dragon as an option. So there you go, guys. That's the extra deck. But again, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/LegitYGO every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. That will be our locals that will be live streaming every week, and between games you will see the GOAT format. So I appreciate it, guys. Subscribe, comment down below, show us how much you love us.